I remember that phone call. I was in the room at Cluny Lodge when my father took the call that afternoon. And I heard him tell Dr. Goh in Mandarin, "This is a huge decision. Let me think about it." I didn't know then what it was about, but it became plain soon enough. When I was Prime Minister, I decided that the Albatross file should be declassified and published. Together with the file, I also decided to publish relevant extracts from the oral histories of key participants involved in separation, to bring together and put on the public record a full documented account of this seminal event in our independence journey. The key question concerning separation is this: was Singapore kicked out by Malaysia, or did we seek separation? Originally, the prevailing view was we were kicked out. The Tunku certainly was a decisive figure in separation, but many factors forced his hand and led him to conclude that letting Singapore go was the best option for him and for Malaysia. Not least was the intense political campaign that Mr. Lee and others in the Singapore leadership mounted to fight for a Malaysian Malaysia. So by the end of June 1965, the Tunku had decided that it would be best to return Singapore to Lee Kuan Yew instead. The Tunku's decision led to the talks between Razak and Dr. Goh from mid-July onwards. Within 3 weeks, a separation agreement was drafted, signed, and Singapore was on its own. The Albatross had finally loosed off our neck. As many historians have since characterized it, separation was a mutually negotiated outcome. But it wasn't the outcome that Mr. Lee preferred. The Albatross file, as well as the oral histories, present evidence that Mr. Lee was quite torn about separation. Indeed, it was Mr. Lee's counter-strategy that forced the Tunku's hand. And it was he who directed Mr. Barker to draft the separation documents soon after Dr. Goh's first meeting with Razak on the 15th of July. But his aim was to strengthen Singapore's position politically, so as to compel the federal government to grant Singapore greater autonomy. Mr. Lee recounted in his oral history and in his memoirs how in the talks between Dr. Goh and Razak, he had instructed Dr. Goh to press for a looser constitutional rearrangement within Malaysia, and that separation was to be an option only if Singapore couldn't get such a rearrangement. But Dr. Goh came back to report that Razak wanted a total hiving off. Mr. Lee accepted this and took decisive steps that enabled separation, which he called a bloodless coup to happen. Yet, till the very end, Mr. Lee was ambivalent. On the 3rd of August, when he was on holiday with the family in Cameron Highlands, Dr. Goh telephoned him to report on his latest meeting with Razak and to confirm that separation was on. In those days, calls to Cameron Highlands had to go through operators who mostly didn't speak Chinese. So Dr. Goh and Mr. Lee spoke in Mandarin, not Dr. Goh's strongest language. I remember that phone call. I was in the room at Cluny Lodge when my father took the call that afternoon. And I heard him tell Dr. Goh in Mandarin, "This is a huge decision. Let me think about it." I didn't know then what it was about, but it became plain soon enough. This was less than a week before Separation Day. Decades later, when Mr. Lee was preparing his memoirs, he obtained Dr. Goh's permission to read his oral history. It was only then that Mr. Lee discovered that, contrary to his instructions, Dr. Goh had, from the start, gone for a clean break and never tried for the looser federation which Mr. Lee preferred and had instructed him to try for. Mr. Lee was so astonished that he made a note of the exact time, date, and place where he first learned this. In the margin of the transcript of Dr. Goh's oral history, next to the passage where Dr. Goh confirmed that it was he and not Razak who had suggested separation, Mr. Lee wrote, "First time read on the 22nd of August, 94, 5:40 p.m. in the office." In 1977, when the Tunku sent Mr. Lee a copy of his memoirs looking back, he inscribed on the flyleaf to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the friend who had worked so hard to found Malaysia and even harder to break it up. The first half of the sentence was true enough. Mr. Lee had indeed worked hard to achieve merger with Malaysia. But the second half was incorrect. Rather than a break with Malaysia, Mr. Lee's aim was a more secure and workable constitutional arrangement for Singapore within Malaysia. Thankfully, the stars were aligned. Within a few years of separation, all our founding leaders, especially Mr. Lee and even those like Mr. Rajaratnam, Dr. Toh, and Mr. Ong, who had signed the separation agreement most reluctantly, concluded that separation was the best thing that ever happened to Singapore. In this SG 60 years, we are very glad that Dr. Goh did what he did. Singapore has thrived and progressed far beyond anything the Founding Fathers imagined. 4 men were key to bringing separation about. On the Malaysian side, the Tunku and his deputy, Tun Razak. On ours, Mr. Lee and Dr. Goh. Dr. Goh was the architect of separation, as Mr. Barker called him. He handled the negotiations brilliantly. He sensed his Malaysian counterparts wanted Singapore out too, and assiduously fed that desire. He adroitly avoided what he considered distractions, including the possibility of a looser federation. He stiffened Razak's resolve when Razak wavered, reminding him of the painful alternatives to hiving off. He also committed Mr. Lee to separation by asking for a letter authorizing him, Dr. Goh, to negotiate constitutional rearrangements with Malaysian leaders. And he did not tell Mr. Lee that he was not pursuing any of the other possible rearrangements which Mr. Lee had instructed him to press for, except one: separation. And finally, Mr. Lee. Separation was not his preferred outcome, but he supported Dr. Goh in the negotiations and supervised Mr. Barker to include key clauses in the separation documents. He went to great lengths to persuade all his ministers to sign the separation agreement. So there was no cabinet split, and independent Singapore started out with a strong, united leadership team. At the strategic level, it was the political pressure that Mr. Lee orchestrated, the international stature that he had built up, and the courage and leadership that he showed, which compelled the Tunku to let Singapore go. Had Mr. Lee shown any signs of being afraid or being willing to bend, we would have been rolled over. Trust in government, and in the political leadership in particular, is founded on the people knowing their leaders will always have their backs. That is one important lesson from our 2 years in Malaysia. His successors have not forgotten this lesson. No Singapore PM has ever allowed any force or power, whether foreign or domestic, to intimidate us into compromising our national interest or sovereignty. The other enduring lesson is never to take our racial and religious harmony for granted. We separated from Malaysia because of identity politics based on race and religion. We will never allow race or religion to break up Singapore. Many Singaporeans today look at separation as a distant memory. Indeed, they wonder why some of our leaders were so conflicted about leaving Malaysia. Isn't it obvious that what happened was inevitable and right? Why the tears? But at the time, when the issue was live and the stakes were huge, it was far from obvious that Singapore should be independent or had such a future. For those who lived through those times, each step was uncertain, each negotiation harrowing, each decision wrenching. I encourage Singaporeans, young and old, to experience through this book and exhibition how on the 9th of August 1965, Singapore came to be forever a sovereign, democratic, and independent nation. You will realize it was hardly foreordained. It was and still is a miracle. Thank you.